to another edition of Waiting for Next Year's CavsCast, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. I'm Seth Wannemacher, and joining tonight, you can follow him on Twitter at Joe Gilbert, WFNY. You can see it on the screen right now if you're watching along. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Joe Gilbert. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How are you doing, Seth?
All good here, man. Little Friday night hoops talk. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy the Cavs are back. It's been seems like a long off season without them.
I don't know about you, but my wallet's been hurting, man. Between a couple of these Guardians games, buying tickets for Cavs. I know you and I are both season ticket guys for the Browns. Like I needed a break ticket wise. Right. So going from 3 teams to 2 is not like killing me right now financially.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, definitely true. Yeah, the Guardians. I went to the first playoff game and I was like, okay, I think that's enough for me. That's a lot.
Last weekend we were tailgating for the Browns game at like 10 a.m. My buddy's like, let's just go to the game. Let's just go. I'm just like, do we want to be downtown for 14 hours and pay another 100 plus? I guess we did because that's exactly what we did. So
nice.
But
that was fun, man.
But we're here to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I echo your sentiment about them being back, man. So much fun. So excited to be back. We talked 2 weeks ago with Evan, and training camp is like a blur now. I mean, it's like 2 weeks. I swear when, back in the 2000s, training camp was like a month. Now you don't even have enough time to sneeze, and you're through.
Right. Yeah. I remember when I think it was the first year Braun was back the second time. They played overseas, and it seemed like that offseason or that preseason was just so long. And now it was like, 2 games, and they're ready to go.
Yep. Yeah, it's if I were an NBA player, it would take me like 4 months into the season to get into shape. Like training camp in 3 weeks is that wouldn't work. But I guess Luka proved that wrong this year. He looks like he's in shape. So
I'm just gonna say that.
Yep. Yeah. But we're gonna break down tonight. We're gonna break down the Cavs 108-105 loss in Toronto. Tough game. Spread was -2.5, and there was kind of a weird dunk with like 0.5 seconds left in that game. So just had to call that out because we're getting betting here legalized soon. But before we dive into the actual basketball, Joe, I was hoping we could start off with the uniforms. So we got to see the crispy new black uniforms for the Cavs. Joe, what'd you think of those?
Those probably my favorite. I think we've seen all 3 of them now, and it just brings me back to the championship jerseys, and these look just like cleaner versions of them. They were so good. I love the gold on black. Those are nice. They're probably my favorite there.
Like you said, the big fat C right in the middle just reminds me of Braun just going up like this, and the gold lettering on the left shorts, the Cavs, and it's got the hoop V for the Cavs and the Jumpman logo. Oh, it's so clean.
It is. Yeah, it's one of their best jerseys they've had in quite a while. And no sleeves too, which is nice.
We don't have any baggy sleeves after the boys ripped them.
Yeah. It's I think it's a win overall on the uniforms. They didn't go crazy on like kind of weird designs. They kind of went simple, and they look really good. And the gold is just so much better than that weird yellow that they had. It's so clean.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And speaking of good looking clothes, we're going to do a brief message from breakingt.com. Don't forget to check out breakingt.com/WFNY for all of your Cleveland sports gear. They've got a bunch of sweet stuff for the Guardians, Browns, Cavs. A couple cool shirts they have for the Cavs right now. They have a Cleveland Spiders shirt. They've got for Ohio. They've got Cavalanche. They've got some really cool stuff over there. So go to breakingt.com/WFNY for all your Cleveland sports needs. Now, Joe, back to the Cavs opener. So if it's okay with you, I wanted to start with, I feel like we're going to bury the headliner here if we don't start to talk about Donovan Mitchell, newly acquired Donovan Mitchell. 31 points, 12 of 21 shooting, 9 assists, 2 steals, 65% true shooting percentage, had a plus 10 net rating when Donovan Mitchell was out there. Joe, just your initial thoughts on Donovan's debut.
It was awesome to watch, man. It's you just kind of, it goes through your head, just like all the potential that he possesses for this team. It's he played so well. He kept him in. If they didn't have him, oh man, that it would probably been a blowout. With Garland gone, we saw it last year when Garland was off the floor. It was a disaster. It was a disaster, and they played really well with Mitchell at the point. So it kind of just shows you the potential of just kind of, without Garland on the floor, they can survive and really flourish with Mitchell on the floor. His ability to just drive and just take contact, and his strength is it's pretty unbelievable for a guard. Like, you don't see that very often. He fights through contact and finishes well, and his explosiveness is great. And one of the kind of fun things was like his ability to split double teams was like really impressive. Like he easily slipped through them. Even like, he's a big kind of sturdy guy, and he slipped through them and kept his dribble, and breaking down that defense is going to be key. And it was fun to watch. It was, you see the potential with this team to be with Mitchell.
Man, those were like three of the notes I had written down. Him splitting when two guys came to try to trap him, or if they had a pick and roll, two guys coming his way. It was like, it almost looked like the other Raptors, who are a ridiculously good defensive team. They looked like they were in slow motion. I mean, he would just kind of get skinny, dribble right through them, and then if there were a couple guys left, he'd get to the paint, hang in the air to either score a little floater or, kick it out to one of the guys for a 3-point attempt. It was, I consider a couple of guys on the Cavs really good athletes last year. Garland is more like skilled and a little bit more twitchy than he is athlete. Colin is certainly an athlete. Ooh, not like Donovan, man.
There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, we haven't seen this level of athlete, I think it's safe to say, since 2018, man. He is an athletic, eye-popping freak. I mean, he looked incredible out there. And to your point, just we were unfortunately robbed of seeing him and our other all-star point guard last night for very long. That's probably where we'll go to next. But yeah, to wrap up Donovan, man, I think Cavs fans should be really happy with what they saw last night and the potential of what Donovan can bring. Because you're right. I mean, his vision was incredible too. I think there's some notion of, okay, we know this guy's an elite scorer. Is that what he's going to bring? But he really had an opportunity to show off his playmaking ability, and man, he brought it. So that was great. Just as we were talking,
I thought his passing was something that I didn't expect either. His passing was obviously, Garland is just one of the special passers in the league, and man, he showed some stuff that really is very impressive, and I can't wait to see how it kind of grows as the season goes on.
I mean, that behind the back, he beat his defender. That behind the back to Osman was just unbelievable.
Right. Like, I didn't know that was in his game. I was like, okay.
I was joking with a buddy on the group text. Of course, Ricky Rubio and Donovan Mitchell played together in Utah, and Ricky was kind of our Osman whisperer last season. I'm like, maybe a little bit of that rubbed off, and Donovan and Osman can have a little connection there. But yeah, outstanding night, 5 stars for Donovan Mitchell. He played his butt off. And frankly, as you said, without him, they were toast. He was the offense, the entire second half. Moving on to the other all-star point guard that had a very tough night, Darius Garland. I think early on, he was forcing it. He looked pretty rough. He was 1 of 7 at one point. It was hard to tell for me, Joe, if it was more Raptors defense, Raptors length, or if it was Darius just, maybe some nerves, maybe just trying to get after it a little too hard. Did you have a perspective on that? Did you think it was the length, or more so just first game, got to kind of ease into the season?
I think it was a bit of a combination. That length is tough for Garland because he's not the tallest guy. He's not the longest guy. And God, that team is just a bunch of arms and legs. Like, they're all over the place. And that's a tough matchup for him. It's going to be a tough one as we go on. But I also think he was just it just seemed kind of sped up like throughout the what he play, a quarter and a half or something.
Yeah,
He
13
just seemed,
minutes.
yeah, he just seemed sped up. I think it was just kind of first game jitters, kind of first game playing with your new guy, kind of rushing things, and it was just a combination of that and the tough matchup, and kind of chalk it up to that, I think.
Yep. Yeah, he had a couple floaters that I think one looked like it hit, a foot left of the rim on the backboard and clanked off. And we
Yeah.
never saw that last year. I mean,
No.
he's such a maestro and in control. And
Yeah.
there was some weird stuff. And we should probably say too, the Cavs just came out with a report a little bit earlier today that he's going to be out against Chicago, and nothing official yet for Sunday and the home opener for the Cavaliers, but it sounds like it maybe not be too optimistic for him to play. So his eye was completely swollen shut. It sounds like he did not travel with the team. So we'll see. They're going to update, over the next couple of days here. So wouldn't anticipate Garland tomorrow in Chicago, and we'll see with Sunday.
Yeah, and then they're off until Wednesday, right? I think is that yeah. So
It'd
I
be a
think
nice
that's
break.
probably
Yeah.
it'll be about a week almost. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Just your when he went down, of course, like there's just a big pit in our stomach, right? It's this second quarter. Did you initially think like, might, it's one of those things where sometimes NBA players go down to try to get, have a review, or were you like, this might be something serious?
I thought that for initially, and then he was down for like when they went in the break, and then I was kind of following along on Twitter the beat writers. They were like, he's still down. I'm like, oh crap, this is not good. Like I think something's going on here. I thought it was maybe a concussion or something, but luckily that was clear. So I was just hoping for the best, and it seems like he got a nasty laceration in his eye, and yeah, that's crazy to see in an NBA game.
Yeah, yeah. Thank gosh, he looks like he's going to be okay. He avoided the any facial fractures or anything like that, so we got lucky there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm having some technical issues, but we're going to cruise right through it.
So. We're back.
We're back. So Darius Garland, we'll take a look at him. I think next up, Joe, we wanted to talk about the small forward position. It was the only position up for grabs the entire training camp. JB came out and said it's a 6-man race for starting small forward position. Turned out that we found out just an hour or two before tip off on Wednesday night that Caris LeVert won the job. Just your initial thought on, is that who you expected to win it? Were you shocked at all about that news?
So I initially thought in the beginning of the preseason that Caris was definitely, it seemed like he was playing every game, and then Okoro kind of finished up really well. So I was torn between the two. It's not shocking either way. I think there's plus minuses for both of them in the starting lineup. I think they just liked that they had another scorer along with the two talented backcourt guys. So they kind of wanted him on there and kind of put Okoro on the second team. Maybe to kind of limit the pressure on him too, because Okoro's been just shoved into the like his first 2 seasons. He's been in the starting lineup for I would say 75% of the games. It seems like, and that's a lot to put on him, especially for a developing guy who's 21. I think he is still, which is like still insane to me. So I think it probably works out, but we'll see how if it sticks like that.
Yeah. To be completely candid, from a fit perspective, and I think from the Cavs having the highest ceiling possible, you really just hope that Okoro can take that step offensively, because I understand how folks say, you can Caris can play a good D, and certainly it's a contract year for Caris, so I expect him to be completely locked in. We've just seen Okoro have good success against guys like Trae Young, and even against someone like the wing guys they're gonna have to face. You got to play the Jaylen Browns, Jason Tatum's, Tobias Harris. I don't think you're going to put a Darius Garland or maybe even a Donovan Mitchell on some of those guys. So if not, I just think Okoro's ceiling, there's really an opportunity. But to your point, I think this is going to be a tinkering kind of all throughout the year. And JB isn't scared to like sit a guy. We saw that last year with Osman, and he can make a decision. He's not just going to stick with what doesn't work. So all kind of faith in him. But it'll be interesting to see how the minutes work out. Obviously Wednesday night was tough. Okoro finished with 12 minutes. He had a brutal game, four pretty early fouls. Caris had a good first half. He had 7 assists for the game, but after Garland went down, it felt like it was his time to kind of step up, right, on the playmaking side, and we just didn't see it.
No, I feel like that injury kind of just threw a whole wrench into JB's rotation, into sort of what the mentality of what the players are gonna like going into the game. I think LeVert had. It seemed like during the preseason, he knew what his role was. Like, he knew that he was going to be the secondary scorer, but in this game, he was thrown into being back to the first scorer when Mitchell wasn't on the floor. So it was I think he was kind of just, it was just a tough kind of situation to be put in game one. You practice through this whole preseason of what you were planning on doing, and then it's all thrown away. It's like, so. I feel like I can't really take a lot from how either of them played. Okoro was gone pretty quickly and with foul trouble, and once you're out with foul trouble, it's hard to get rhythm back, and especially with him, it seems like you gotta catch rhythm because Okoro can just disappear. We've seen it quite a few times where he can just disappear in a game. So I think it was just a tough situation, and I wouldn't take too much from either of them really to see how they kind of played. We'll see going forward, obviously, how it turns out, though.
Yeah, and just like the one guy at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse that screams MVP every time Chetty Osman goes to the free throw line. Chetty's coming for that starting small forward role, man. He played incredibly well last night. He was the spark, with I think the best lineup they had for really in the second quarter that brought him back in the game, because the Cavs got outscored pretty handedly in the first. They were down, and then I think the lineup of Donovan Mitchell, Osman, I don't think Mobley was in. I think it was Love, Allen, LeVert, Osman, and Donovan. I mean, they came up, and I think they were on like a 14-2 run at one point. That lineup really, really got hot. And it's like I heard somebody talking about it today. Osman's like the one guy you just can't quit. Every year you're like, this might be the year you don't get much run. We're really starting to build good depth. And then they needed him last night. I mean, they really needed him.
It's because his good is so good. Like, his good, it's just like he can just make 5 shots in a row, like 5 threes in a row, and it's like it's just so fun to watch. And then he has games where he doesn't play defense, can't make a shot to save his life. It's just like he's such a high-low guy, and it's such a high variance, and you just love to see him when he's on fire, because he was on fire for much of the game, and he kept them in that game.
Yeah, and it wasn't just all threes. I mean, he did a couple like dribble handoffs with Donovan, and he got by a couple guys. He made like a tough little jump shot. I mean, he was doing some pretty good stuff last night. And then it was all, they were really rolling the second and third quarter. But man, the beginning of that fourth quarter, I think the Raptors made 4 threes all in a couple minutes, and the Cavs just couldn't recover. I think they got back to maybe 1 or 2 down. But yeah, I went back and watched just that 2 or 3 minute stint at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Some of it was looked like guys were kind of over helping, and then some of it was like no one was just on a certain guy. But I mean, the Raptors are a tough team. They're not going to shoot, what was it, 43% most nights. No, they're not a great shooting team. So I think the Cavs got done in by a couple of shots that the Raptors may not make night in, night out. But
right, yeah, a couple of the guys they shaded off because I think it was I can't think of his name, but a couple of guys that you like don't expect them to make threes, so I can see them shading off a little bit. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think the defense is going to come. It's gonna rely on obviously the 2 guys underneath, But I think the rotations and all that will get better as the season goes on because there's a lot of new guys on this team. There's quite a few.
Yeah, when Thaddeus Young's making threes against you,
I know.
it's a big problem. It's a very big problem.
Right.
And that's probably a decent transition into their typically lack of 3-point volume that they shoot, and they're just absolute 2-point monsters with their makeup of their team. It just goes really well into the style of play, man. They had 14 steals against the Cavs 6. They had 12 offensive rebounds versus the Cavs 6, and Joe, there were points where I was just feeling bad for Jared Allen. I mean, you would look and there's literally 4 guys like climbing on his legs, and one of them gets the ball and Jarrett's on the ground again. I thought Allen played a hell of a game, pretty tough, but they just crash so hard. They make it tough to watch. You need like shoulder pads and a helmet to play with those guys.
Seriously, yeah. They're I don't know how that style stays throughout the season, especially in the playoffs where they're kind of more probably be a little bit stricter on those calls and all that. But yeah, that's a tough team to play game one. Like that's you come in the preseason, you're not it's not really a physical preseason in terms of games. Like there's not a lot of stuff like that. And then you come into this game and it's like a freaking boxing match that's just so many arms and legs slapping at you, and yeah, that's a tough matchup. It's gonna be that we're gonna see this matchup in the next 5-10 years quite often because these two are great young teams. They got really great young guys. Man, Pascal Siakam is just one of the fun guys to watch in the league. He you don't see Evan Mobley get beat often. He scored on him quite a couple times where it was like, oh shit, damn, like that's impressive because there's not a lot of guys that can move like him and be that tall, and Evan usually doesn't have that kind of that matchup, and it was impressive to watch. So they're going to be a team to kind of have to kind of deal with over the next few years.
Yeah, I think I saw that they have some assets too. You know, they have a lot of guys that could be traded. They've got, I think, most, if not all, their picks. So they're one of those teams too that could go out and probably improve if certain teams are tanking for the exciting, young crop of rookies to come next year. And yeah, I remember one play specifically with Siakam where he came down like he does most. If he has a little guy, he pretty much takes him right to the rack.
Yeah.
If he has a guy that can kind of guard him, he dribbles to his little 2 points, almost DeRozan-esque. Like he's got his spots, in the mid range, and
that's very good combination. Him and DeRozan are pretty close, and just size wise is basically the difference.
Yeah, and he got a spot. And the one jump shot he took over Mobley was just, are you kidding me? Like how do you put that much float on it? It was just ridiculous. Right. But
yeah,
yes,
he made that floater like all game. It was impressive.
Yeah, and Nick Nurse did what Nick Nurse does. He played the hell out of him. I'm looking at the minutes right now.
He didn't seem like he was off the floor often.
No, Van Vliet played 39 minutes. OG Anunoby played 38 minutes. Gary Trent Jr. played 37 minutes, and that's what he did all last year. I think 2 or 3 of the Raptors led the league in minutes played per game. So that's their MO. And yeah, you just, to your point earlier, Joe, it's like that was the first game of the season. I think the Cavs take it as, hey, we're learning a lot. The Raptors are like full charge. We need to get this game. It's like you hope it just doesn't bite them in the ass as the season goes along, right?
Yeah. They're like there's always teams that like are kind of the regular season champs. Like we saw the Hawks during the Cavs run, where the Hawks they cared about regular season games more than the Cavs did. Like the Cavs didn't give a crap about it, and then you go to the pro season and it's just a whole different ballgame. I feel like it's not going to be as extreme with the as like the Hawks were, but I feel like that could be like a team that kind of does better work during the regular season than actually postseason, because you got to make 3-pointers in the postseason, and that team has Fred VanVleet and basically you're kind of pushing who else is going to make those consistent threes. But yeah, they continue to just get these long players that are just tough to handle, and especially in the post or in the regular season and you're coming off a preseason, it's a tough matchup. So it was definitely definitely a test for the Cavs in the first game.
Yeah, and truly a battle of the different styles. Like if the
Yeah.
Cavs could get one of those guys that are 6'6" to 6'8", it'd be incredible. And likewise, I think they would probably take one of our either big or small guys. I think, if you could like do a mock draft or, do like a
Right.
snake draft of both of these teams, you're coming up with a damn good team out of there.
Yeah, if they were in the different division, or different conference, they would probably trade with them immediately. Like
Yeah,
OG,
right.
like maybe OG on OG coming over here, like a perfect small forward. But here we are.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to talk just real quick about. I mean, it's one game. Evan didn't get a chance to play too much in training camp because he had a bum ankle. What were your thoughts on him? I thought he had some wow moments and plays where
Yeah,
you're like, whoa, there's Evan Mobley. And then some other plays, you're like, oh, damn, I wish he got that rebound. Or, ooh, I
yeah.
wish he maybe was a little tighter with the hand. What was your take on Mobley's game on Wednesday?
So I thought his first stretch was like, holy crap! like, like his first, I think it was 5 or 6 minutes he played. Like, okay, this kid took a jump, and then I feel like he didn't kind of consistently stay at that level. He really struggled in terms of kind of scoring later in the game. He did these kind of fadeaway shots. I don't think he's there yet on those yet to consistently make them. So it was kind of up down kind of first game. It was definitely tough. I think what he had, I think he played a half in preseason, which is not a lot of time. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's definitely it's one of those. Basically, what the whole team, I'm gonna say, like it's tough to take anything with it. It just like we were posting in the Discord channel, like that first 5 minutes is like holy crap. Like that was, I think he did a dribble. His handle looks better. Like his shot, it looks a little bit cleaner and kind of smoother. So if he can kind of show that through 48 minutes or whatever, oh man, watch out.
Yeah, they sagged off of him his first two
Yeah,
3-point attempts. The first one he just barely missed, and the second one he made. And I'm like, oh, the
yeah.
Raptors better they better get up to that line. That
Right.
Mobley had a good season or good
Yeah.
offseason shooting.
Yeah, if he keeps making them, people are gonna come closer, and then we may see his better kind of wiggle and handle. And we saw that spin turnaround drive. Like that's just a little inkling of what he could do if people play up on him.
Yeah, there was one drive in particular where I believe it was Scotty Barnes who came up to him and he did like a little pump for shot fake, went around him and had this nice little like scooping layup coming across from the left side to the right, hit the backboard and went in. And that was one of those like, whoa, this guy, when you're doing that to Scotty Barnes, who pretty soon is going to
Right.
be in that defensive player of the year conversation, that's like a whoa,
Yeah.
he can do it. So yeah, just I'm very, very excited to see the next 10, 12, 14 games of him, and just to see, probably him get back into it a little bit. Like we said, he
Yeah.
just got back into playing basketball, a couple of days ago.
Yeah. I also want to see him kind of rebound better because, as you said earlier in the show, Jared Allen was by himself for quite often. Like it's obviously a whole team thing too. Like the guards have to play better and forwards do. I think Okoro has shown that he can rebound and stuff, but besides that, like I know that's a tough matchup in terms of offensive rebounding, but they have to improve that off of last season. That killed them. It killed them in games where they just gave up these offensive rebounds. And it's a lot of times it's just the long rebounds, which is on the guards.
Yep.
It falls on the guards to kind of box out and get the ball. So definitely something they have to clean up, and I think Evan can be a little bit better at that too.
Yeah, they were such a slow pace last year where you really didn't have an excuse for the guards. It's like you're not flying down the court anyway. Get your ass on
Right.
somebody and get the ball.
Right.
now I'm really curious to see what JB's gonna do. He obviously is stressing offensive rebounding, and now with Mitchell and Garland back when he's back, it's gonna be interesting to see how much they can contribute versus them trying to go get fly down the court and get a bucket.
Right.
But yeah, Joe, anything else you wanted to hit on the game? I think we want to talk a little bit of schedule. Those were, I think we hit on a lot of the big stuff. Anything else you wanted to hit on?
Yeah, I just thought Mobley, Jared Allen was really good. I thought Raul Neto was really bad.
Yes.
I thought when he came in, I was like, okay, they got a guy kind of settle it down, and it was like the exact opposite. Like he rushed, he was throwing passes. Like I was like, ooh, how long is Rubio out? I was like, I thought Neto was going to be like a veteran presence. He kind of won't do anything to kill you, won't do anything to really help you a lot, like make threes and stuff like that. But I think he kind of led the charge of allowing the Toronto kind of get back in the game, and it wasn't great.
Yeah, I think there was a quick 8-0 run basically when he came in. There's one clip of him circulating the internet where, I mean, he's not a tall guy, and he's going up against, I think there's 4 Toronto guys around him, and he just runs right into the middle of them. Right. And it just looks like, an alligator getting some live food or something. It's just like, you can't do that, buddy. You don't want to do that. Kick it out to anybody. But yeah, he had a tough night, and he's been studying his career. So we just probably maybe some of it's probably bad matchup, but we just need him to calm down if we need him for early second team minutes.
It was also interesting that he didn't really play in the first half, so I don't think he's really part of the rotation. It seemed like, well, now it will be because of Darius being out, but I don't think he wasn't supposed to play. It seemed like, at least.
Yeah, it seemed like he kind of got thrown in there, and it was lights are bright and all these monsters have like 6'11" wingspans around me. What am I supposed to do, coach?
Yeah. So maybe next few games he'll kind of settle down. Like, okay, I know I'm playing today, so we'll see.
You hope, and maybe we've just been spoiled by it, but you hope he gets, if he is gonna get some run here when Garland's out the next couple of games. Hope he has some good connection, just that vet type stuff with Osman and Love. You just assume it's kind of there. They're all kind of heady type guys. So hopefully they'll be able to connect a little bit. Yeah. Speaking of schedule ahead, so Cavs have 2 more games this week. So they play tomorrow in Chicago against the Bulls, who are currently playing today. I don't know the score, but Chicago's 1-0 right now. They beat Miami 116.
Losing to Washington.
Losing to Washington. Interesting. Yeah. And then that's the other team the Cavs play on Sunday, the home opener at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse to play the Wizards. So the Cavs have a back-to-back, which is kind of weird, because it's on the back half of their opener. I would kind of, I don't, maybe it doesn't really matter, but I would almost hope their opener would be on the front end of a back-to-back, just for the fans. It's obviously a little bit more winnable when your first game would be at home. But either of those teams scare you? You think those are both, pretty winnable games? Cavs should be favored.
I think they should be favored. Chicago obviously can beat because DeMar DeRozan is playing his ass off for the past couple of years here. So he can definitely kind of beat you by himself, especially on the road. He's going to be a tough matchup. Washington, they're tough to kind of square. Like you see the talent on the team, like the young talent, but then they seem like they just never get it together. Beal kind of gets hurt and kind of unravels, so they can definitely Beal can get hot and make shots. So I think there are 2 teams that could beat you if they play well and you're not ready. But they're also teams that you should be able to beat.
The Wizards are almost like in that Hornets territory for me, where they have some dudes, but it's just such a weird collection. Like they have Porzingis and
Kuzma, they just like kind of bunch people together.
Yeah, like who's kind of orchestrating the offense. But to your point, they've got the kid who I kind of wanted the Cavs to draft a couple years ago, Denny Avdija, 3-point shooter, and Hachimura is a small forward. But they got a bunch of dudes, and the East is just so talented this year. I think they'd be lucky to get that 9 or 10 spot. I think it's going to be a tough road for them again this year.
Yeah, they're like towards the bottom, but they're like they're a team that can beat you on a given night. Like there's really not there's what maybe 2 teams in the East that are like kind of Orlando. I think you can put on there, but they have a bunch of young guys that can kind of
they've got young talent.
Yeah,
Pistons are.
Yeah, Pistons are the same way. They have a
Yeah.
bunch of young guys. Cade is a freaking stud. So,
Yeah,
it's going to be very interesting to see how the East kind of – it feels like almost like the AFC in football where they're just going to beat up on each other. Like the records aren't going to be that great as like last year where it seemed like there was like 8 teams that kind of separated from each other.
Yeah.
And I think this year that's going to be pretty close together.
Yeah, totally agree. The East is going to have to go out west to get their cheap wins. You're going to have to beat some of those bad Western Conference teams to get their wins. It's a shame the Cavs only play most of them twice or even once in the worst case. But yeah, that's right, Lakers. I mean, we don't have to spend a ton of time on them, but I watched both of their games this year, and it's just. Honestly, I just feel bad because selfishly, I just want to watch LeBron be a playoff contender, and this current team is not that. And I understand it's his own doing. I just selfishly want to see him play playoff basketball, and I don't think we're going to see that, right?
No, it's just like clunky. Like they're just a clunky team that just doesn't. Like it just seems like they never figured out like, oh, we need shooters around LeBron. Like, oh, okay. Like every other freaking team that he's been successful with, he's had great shooters around, and they figured out the year one when they had KCP and all those guys, and I don't know what happened after that. They just kind of, it's disappointing, man. You don't want to see that happen with, especially it seems like he's kind of gonna finish up his career there. You would think maybe, who knows, with Bronny or whatever. We'll see how that goes, but it's just tough to watch. Like they're just not a fun team to watch, and when you have LeBron, like that shouldn't be the case. Like he should be like one of the fun teams to watch, and they're just not.
Yeah, they're going to be all over ESPN, TNT this year, ABC, and there's just no reason to watch them right now. They don't have the shot making. If LeBron is kind of checked out, which he's probably going to do pretty early this year, it's just going to be a gross style of basketball. So, shout out Bron. Sorry we don't have Wally Zerbiak or Sasha Pavlovich or Danielle Marshall to hand over to you, but have at it this year, buddy. Well, Joe, that's all I got. Any last nuggets before we wrap up tonight?
No, I'm just excited, man. Basketball's back. NBA's back. It's fun to see kind of these games on almost every night. It's going to be a fun season. This is one of the most kind of really, really talented leagues that they've had in a long time. There's a lot of really good teams. And when the Cavs and Warriors were good, there's like 3 or 4 teams that were pretty good and like really good, and then everybody else kind of sucked. Like it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be tough matchups each night. They can't really take any days off, and I can't wait to kind of have Garland back and see how this team develops, and it's gonna be a fun one.
Yep. Yeah, it's not outlandish to say, 7 or 8 teams could win the finals this year. And in most years, that's 3 or 4 teams realistically. I mean, you don't have the number of teams that have a shot. So yeah, you're right. The league has really never been in a better spot. It's going to be awesome watching the Eastern Conference finals. It's going to be a hell of a year, man. See the Cavs go 2-0. Thank you everybody for listening, and hope you have a great weekend all. Thank you.
See you.